Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. Today I'd like to share with you this cute card that I've made using some items from the Celebration catalog for 2020. I'm using the stamp set, Thoughtful Blooms, and its coordinating punch. So let's go ahead and get started making this card. The first thing I'd like to do is to dye the white baker's twine with some re-inkers, and I'm using the soft Sea Foam re-inker. And the way I like to do this, so you're going to start with some water, and typically I would do this in a sink, but for the video I've got a bowl of water and I'm just going to get the baker's twine wet. And the reason I do this is because I feel like the color goes through the twine better when it's wet. So then I just take it out, maybe pull a little bit of the water off, and put it into a baggie. And then I take the re-inker and add a couple drops. So I already have some ink in there, so I'm just going to add 2 drops. And then zip it up. Get maybe the air out, and then you're just gonna smush that together until the color is all over the twine. Okay, so you can see that that color has got into the twine, and then you just need a napkin or a paper towel, and you're just gonna pull that out. And I'm just going to dab it, get some of that color off. Maybe lightly pull it to dry it. You can see that it's getting a little lighter and more close to the original color of the paper. So now we're just going to put that to the side and let it dry. And let's do our stamping. So we really only need a couple sheets of cardstock. We've got our soft Sea Foam card base, and I've scored that down the middle. And then I've got the same size in just very vanilla, and I'm going to use this for stamping and cutting. Now on top of the products from the Celebration catalog, I'm also using some new products, and this one's called Stitched So Sweetly Dies. And I really love the rectangles that come in this die set. And I'm going to use the largest die. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Big Shot. Okay, so I've cut that out, and you can see how it has this beautiful stitching and a wonderful little scallop on the sides. Okay, so now for the stamping. Oops. Okay, now for the stamping. So I'm using soft Sea Foam ink. And for the background, I have repeated the 3-leaf stamp over the rectangle cutout. So I'm going to grab that from the stamp set and put it on a block. Now when using a small stamp like this one, you do want a smaller block so that you're less likely to ink the clear block and then get that on your paper. So let me grab some scrap paper. All right, so we're just going to randomly stamp this. So you can see I've gotten ink, maybe you can see. I'll do this. There's a little bit of ink right there on that corner. And so you just want to be careful that you don't get that on your paper. So just stamp randomly your little leaf. And I just like to turn and kind of just go kind of in a pattern that you want, you know, your leaves to look different. Make sure you go off the edge as well. That will make it feel like it was part of a larger piece. Okay. All right, so I've stamped that all over my rectangle. So our next step is to stamp the flowers, and I'm going to use a larger block for this. And the reason for that is because I'm going to place both flower stamps on it, one on each side and in each corner. And then I'm using Rich Razzleberry and Blackberry Bliss ink pads. So these two colors are close on the color wheel. And so to lighten up the Rich Razzleberry, I'm going to do a stamp off, stamp on technique. So with scrap paper, I'm stamping off and then I'm stamping on. And the other thing you want to do is make sure that the stamp is sitting the same way as your punch, so that when you punch it out, you don't have to fuss and flip it around too much. So I need 5 of these flowers. So don't forget to stamp off. Oh, that one might be a little close. And then stamp on. Let's make them a little further apart. So that's 4, 5. And I'm going to just do an extra one just in case. Okay, so that's the Rich Razzleberry. So next we're going to do the Blackberry Bliss. This one we're going to do full strength, and we're doing it in the lined flower. So again, make sure that it's lining up with your punch, and we just need 3 of these. Okay. Oh, before we do that, let's go ahead and stamp the greeting. This is in Blackberry Bliss as well. And you can just stamp this somewhere in the middle and off to the side. Okay, so we've done all our stamping. So let's go ahead and punch out these flowers. So you're just lining up your flower with the punch. I always do this upside down and then punch them out. It's kind of fun watching them jump out of the punch. Look at that, they all came out just fine. Okay, and then the 3 lined flowers. Okay. So next we're going to cut out our greeting. And I have used the same dies from the big rectangle to make this the smaller rectangle. But if you look at the dies, you'll notice that they're all really elongated. And so I wanted something that would fit the greeting better. So I found this die, and it fits the greeting well when we're looking at it at the top and bottom. You can see that it gives a good border around it, but it's too long for me. So I'm going to show you how to make your dies, use your dies to create something a little smaller so that it fits your greetings. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can cut out our greeting using a die that's a little bit larger than what we want. So I found a die that fits my greeting vertically. So I feel like it's got a good spacing on the top and bottom. And what I'm going to do is on either the left or the right side of the greeting, I'm going to kind of match that spacing on the other side. So I'm doing it on the right. So I have a spacing on top and bottom, and I'm kind of matching that here on the right. And then I'm going to take some tape, and I'm going to hold this down on the outside of the die. Excuse me, my voice. So go ahead and make sure that tape only is on the outside of the die. And then I'm going to put it through my Big Shot. I've got my magnetic platform and then a very well-loved plate, and then my greeting, and then my mostly new plate. And I'm using this so you can kind of see where I'm placing it. And the key here is to just do the right side of the greeting and not beyond. So I'm going to place it here in the middle of my greeting so that it only cuts the side that I want. So you're going to run that through. And you'll see when we take this off that it only cut that side. Oops, sorry, only that side. So what we're going to do is we're going to now flip, and we're going to remove some of this cardstock. So grab a pair of scissors and just cut this side of the cardstock off so that you can see that scalloped edge. Okay. So now we're going to match the other side. So that would be my left side. Find a good spacing for it, and then flip it over, and we're going to match the scallops to the cut, match the scallops of the die to the pre-cut scallops on our cardstock. Having the tape there is a little tricky, but it's nice once you figure out where you want it. Okay. So that looks a little close to me, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it down one scallop, or up one, I guess. So it was there, so now I want it here. And then the same on that side. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so I've arranged the left side, and we're going to cut again with our Big Shot. This time we're going to only put the plate on the left side. Now it doesn't matter if we line it up perfectly. You can see here, this is probably where we've cut previously, but we can go ahead and have it overlap slightly, as long as we don't overlap and cut the whole thing, because just remember, if we cut past this, if we cut on this line, then we would take off that corner scallop that we need to make it look right. So then you're just going to put that through your Big Shot. And we have cut our greeting, and you can see that it does a pretty good job. It's pretty seamless. Every once in a while you'll see something like this where you get an extra stitch, but I don't think anyone's going to notice that. So that is how you can customize your rectangle dies to get the size that you want. Okay, so I've got my colored baker's twine, and it's still a little damp. So I'm going to blast it with my heat tool just to dry it really quick. All right, so my baker's twine is now dry, and so we're going to go ahead and assemble the card. So grab the card base, And I'm just going to use some snail. And this just goes in the center on the front of the card base. Okay, so here is our original. So the next step would be to apply the solid flowers, and those are all applied with a glue dot or two. And I like to apply these small little glue dots with my pickup tool, and I just use the sticky end to take it off the plastic, and then it should just come right up with the sticky, and then I can lay it down wherever I want it. So the reason I'm doing all the solid ones with a glue dot is because I want them to be more flat on the card, and then the striped flowers I'm going to put up with dimensionals, and that just gives my whole card some dimension. So I want some tucked behind the rectangle. So I'm going to put one on the left, one up in the corner on the right, and then I'm going to add one. So I'm going to do some groupings. So this third one I'm going to add on top of my rectangle a little lower, and then let's put one up here on the top right and kind of a grouping there. And then my last one I'm going to add after I've added my greeting. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've got my greeting, and I'm going to apply some snail to the back, and this is going to help the baker's twine adhere to that. And I've got between 16 to 18 inches of twine. 16 barely fits, and so if you like to have a little extra, then go with the larger size. And you're just going to kind of wrap this twine back and forth to give it kind of a bow look, and then just stick that tail right there in the middle. This tail on this side is bent slightly, so I'm just gonna cut that off with my snips. Okay, now I want to apply this with dimensionals just so that it can stand out. And I always put the dimensionals over my twine so that I know that it's another step to kind of adhere everything together. And this just goes a little higher than center on my card. Oops. Bring that in a little bit. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add this last solid flower, and that's just going to come down here on the little right from center. And now we're going to add our striped flowers with some of these small dimensionals. And these will just complete our groupings. So one goes up here, one maybe bring that down a little bit. One can come, maybe we'll put one. My original card has it up here in the corner, but I feel like that's going to compete a little bit too much with this one on the right. And so I'm going to bring this one down. So this is just adhered with a glue dot, and if you're kind of careful, you can move them. I'm going to bring that one down so that this one can come down a little bit further. I'm going to bring this twine down a little bit and then put this right here in the corner. Maybe this one. The dimensionals, it's harder to remove them, but if you can get underneath that adhesive, then it can come off. I was not as successful with this, so I'm just going to take that off and add a new one. And I'm going to change the position just a little bit so it's a little bit higher. Let's bring that one up higher too, and then this one up. There we go. So they're not sitting exactly on that same plane. Okay, and then this last one, we're going to add down here by this one. Perfect. All right, so we've got our flowers. And the very last thing we're going to do, we're going to add some of the green sequins from the Iridescent Sequin assortment. And these are really fun. These have a lot of beautiful colors, but I don't really want to introduce too many colors. And so we're just going to stick with the green. And so I'm going to grab some glue dots, maybe, and I'm going to place them just around the groupings that I've created with the flowers. Oops. Okay, so I've got 2 up here, 2 down here, and 1 there. So that will give me 5, which is an odd number, and I kind of like to try and stick with odd numbers. So I'm just grabbed a couple pinches and removed some of the sequins, and go ahead and place them down. So typically I would do this in my lid so that I could put them back away when I was done, but I wasn't thinking clearly. So there are some big ones and some little ones, so you can either choose to do only one size or do both sizes. Let me get a couple more big ones. Okay. And then use your pointed end if you need to flip them. So I like the curved side to be up so that the flat side is touching the glue dot, so there's maybe a better way of adhering to the card. And it looks like I need another one. I'm just going to grab one. Maybe. There we go. Stick that one under there. Okay. All right, so we have finished this card. So there are some really fun things about this stamp set, and one of them is that you can get it for free during celebration with a $50 order, and then you can get the punch for free as well when you spend $100. So with $150, you'd be able to get these 2 items for free. Now the other fun thing is that it comes with a lot of different things that you can do with the flowers. So you've got the stripes, and I have seen people put the stripes on top of the solid colored flower, and that's really beautiful, as well as this smaller flower that you could put inside either flower. And then I love this little one here that you could also add. And you have the same thing with leaves, and then a stem or a branch that you can add leaves to. So it's got some really fun imagery that you can really mix and match to make your cards unique and different. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Visit creativechelsea.com for a free tutorial of this project and to purchase the supplies needed. Have a creative day. Bye.